This program is brought to you by thepodcastfactory.com.
Hey there, it's Michelle, and I want to help you to live an epic story lifestyle. So, I'd like for you to do me a favor. Go over to epicstorylifestyle.com/live life to grab a free copy of my Hacks for Living an Epic Story Lifestyle checklist. Thanks.
You are listening to the second year of Epic Story Lifestyle. Here is a lady who continues telling us cool stories. Michelle Spiva, how are you?
I am, well, how can I say this? I'm stunned. We made it a year.
Yeah, I'm excited. And you know what's cool is that you have the long-term commitment of doing this, and somehow you keep coming up with new stories. I don't know how you do it.
I have my moments. Well, I'm really excited today. And the reason why I'm excited is because JR is letting me totally geek out today. But you guys, I promise I'm going to make it fun. I really do. I just need y'all to stick with me and give me a moment. So let me tell y'all a story. So I have great friends and students and readers and all this great stuff. And I'm going to tell you, most of you guys know I'm a full-time, thankfully successful, best-selling romance writer and writing coach. And I was talking with someone who was a student and has become sort of a advanced student acquaintance, and they were talking about the rigors of writing. And I'm going to just tell you, one of these days I'm going to really I did a show called the Secret Life of Romance Writers, and I didn't really touch a lot on this because it can be really deep and dark. But when you have to create something out of nothing, it needs to be believable, and there's that element of the magical called love and romance that you have to suspend people's disbelief to read your story and believe it. It takes a lot out of you, and therefore I understand on an intimate level why artists over the centuries have had problems with sometimes remaining sane, because there is a war of art, like that book by Stephen Pressfield that I love to reference. And so this person was talking about how anxieties and stresses and deadlines and things were really taking a toll on them. And I wanted to help them reframe. And so I started telling them about one of my favorite theoretical physicists. So I love Dr. Michio Kaku. And he's a professor at CUNY in New York, City College of New York, for those of you who may not be U.S. based. And he has a knack for taking quantum physics and popularizing it for the everyday person where you want to listen to it. And so he did a program that I watched one time, and it talked about the fact that theoretical physicists have come up with a pretty good model, meaning for them that this is probably the truth, that they can prove and show up to 10 simultaneous realities happening at the same time. And the reason why this was important is because they are still looking at the possibility of time travel. And so he showed this model, and it was really cool. And it got me to thinking as a therapist, all of the different things that we do to delve into this realm. So for instance, what I mean is there was a popular movement, self-improvement movement, if you will. And it was some controversy because some people said it was hooey and other people swore by it. And the results were just the same. You had some people that would, quote unquote, think it, believe it, and receive it. And then you had some people that would, I guess, try to do the same and nothing would happen. And I remember in one of my grad programs, we wrestled with this, and I went and I tried to find all this research. And at the time, I didn't know about Dr. Michio Kaku. I wish I had at the time, because I would have totally wrecked my professors. Anyway, I digress. Forgive me, JR. Let me get back on point here.
All right.
But we were looking at, why does this happen? And so my grandmother always used to say, if you just keep living, the answer will show up. And so I remember looking at his book called The Future of the Mind. And in it, I mean, he was touting this Morpheus Loop of continuous realities that are happening simultaneously and all of this. And all of that training I had from the neurobiological and neuroscience classes that I had taken in my psychology program just sprang to life. And I remembered that great debate we had about the efficacy of self-improvement and quote unquote thought management. And it hit me that a lot of times when people have a expectation of the great what if, they tend to get it. For some people, that sounds like the definition we use for faith, believing in something that you can't physically see. But what I really liked about this hypothesis that he was proposing for these 10 plus simultaneous realities happening was that it gave us a reason to hope for a better life. So think about people that have been able, and I think they sometimes call it bootstrapping, pulling themselves up by sheer force of will.
Yeah.
Think about those. And I love bio and biographies and stuff like that. And I remember watching a documentary, yes, me and my documentaries, about the merchants of merchandise. And they talked about Woolworth, Macy's, the Levi Strauss brothers, and all of these. And there was something that stood out to me. And you know what it was? Vision. Each one of them had concrete, tangible, you cannot refute it vision for what they wanted and what they saw themselves having. Now, for regular folks, they would be like, oh, that's that believe it and you can see it stuff. For Dr. Kaku and theoretical physicists, they would say, this is, are you ready, JR?
I am.
They would say, this is an alternate reality that you're getting close to in that Morpheus loop calling to you. And the way, and it's hard to describe it, but the way they showed this diagram was that these realities are not on a circular or even an elliptical loop. They're on a Morpheus loop, which means that it kind of twists in the middle, meaning that at any given time, different realities can brush up against each other. And what they are almost hypothesizing, because he wasn't really committed to saying that exactly, was that could it be because thought is one of the strongest energies that we can produce? Could it be that thoughts can attract to these different realities when we brush up against them in close proximity of, depending on where we are in these Morpheus loops? And I could hear the person I was talking to glazing over. And I was like, okay, let me put it a different way. And I'm going to put it a different way for our listeners right now. What I mean is, physicists have said that there is possibly a reason for deja vus. There is possibly a reason for you having faith to believe something you've never believed before. And the possibility is because in some reality, it has already happened. Boom. That's simple enough to believe, right?
Yeah.
So if that's simple enough to believe, and you have all these people who have jumped from one reality to another through the portal of thought, I am of the belief that because I am of the human race, if he, she, or it was able to do it, so can I. And therefore, this is how quantum physics, in my belief and understanding, is able to help us win. You don't like your reality, and I'm not saying it's this easy, but this is the best way I can say it. You don't like your reality? Challenge yourself to see, think, or believe a different one that is great. Now, one thing about it that I will say, in all of these different visions, like the merchants of merchandise and even Ben Franklin and Thomas Edison and all of these who had these great visions, you'll notice that when these visions were so strong, they not only benefited them, they benefited people in their time and time to come. And that, to me, was another reason for me to believe it. So, believe it or not, the reason why today we have convenience stores and places where our standard of life is so much better in that we don't have to toil for every single thing is because of your Woolworths with the 5 and dime stores making certain things available to the masses, and your Henry Fords with automation that brought on the Industrial Revolution. All of these were visions from people who, if you listen to the theoretical physicists, they were just simply brushing up against different possibilities that would better them and a whole bunch of other people. So I get privy knowledge to a lot of people who have these great visions for themselves. And one thing is missing. It only benefits them. It's only for the purpose of making them rich. And if you ask me, if they get it out to the checkmate, it'll probably cause some other people to have to suffer. And they wonder why they don't get it. But then there are other people that want to do great stuff, and it comes to pass because they can almost fixate on it, and it benefits people for generations to come. And so I love the possibilities of what quantum physics can do. That is why we have terms like quantum leaps. Because, believe it or not, to change your reality, you kind of sort of have to do a quantum leap, whether it's in your belief system, your thinking, or your faith. There has to be a leap. And then to me, now this is me continuing to geek out, when I hear statements supposedly attributed to Einstein, things that say, statements that say, the mind that created the problem is not the mind that will solve it. To me, that's code for the mind in this reality that presented this problem is going to continue in this reality unsolving it. So therefore, you need to jump to a different reality where a different mind has already solved it and get there. Does that make sense? Am I just talking foolishness? You can tell me, JR.
Mind is blown. I didn't know where you were going with that, but then I started thinking of all the stuff that I've studied and even self-help and visualization, and what you just said really hit home with the mind that created the problems, not the one that solves it. Giving that concept that maybe you have to be in another reality is kind of an interesting little twist you put in there.
Yeah, and that's why I was like, I got so excited because all that stuff started tumbling. Like, for instance, if I stayed in many realities ago, I would never be talking to you all right now. I would never be able to give you anything of value, anything of usefulness or entertainment, because that reality had me going where I was subjugated to the whims of others, living in the rural South, uneducated or whatever it may be. And I'm so thankful that if there be a Morpheus Loop out there, that every time it's advantageous, I jump onto the best reality going and I keep moving. And so now that's kind of like, and I'm glad that this person got it. And and this is the thing, my grandmother used to say, you can judge a fruit by its tree. A tree that's good can't produce bad fruit. And the one thing I liked about it is when I had this conversation with this person, it took me a minute to get them to understand what I was saying, because they thought I was just being my regular woohoo Michelle. But once they grasped onto it, they got excited and inspired. And they remembered that this particular series they're working on has sold so many books, and there are so many people waiting on it because they already have a belief that this is going to give them the entertainment and the escapism into a world that they have already loved and embraced. That this person was like, I now see that this is worth something. This helps people. And it's a very popular series that this person is doing. And I couldn't have done that. And I'm very thankful that my little love of quantum theoretical physics helps somebody. Now, of course, I could totally bore you guys and talk about my love for chaos theory and all of that, but I'm not going to. I'm not going to. And I'm gonna say that when we think about winning, to me, winning is not at the expense of somebody else losing. And that's why I named this segment that I'm talking about quantum theoretical physics for the win. I think of winning as being able to always be better than a cat landing on your feet with more than 9 lives. You get to the point where you're able to continuously hop to the best reality to have the most epic storied lifestyle ever. And for us to deny that there are other realities already happening where your situation that you might be facing right now has already been solved for the betterment of you and many others, that gives me hope. That helps me to make it through the struggle that I've got to go in front of me or that I'm currently in, knowing that I can hopscotch using my hope to the finished product. When I have what might seem like an insurmountable task, meaning I've got to write a book in a certain deadline, and I'm like, I don't know how this is going to happen. And I sit there and take a moment to visualize the heft and the weight of the paperback version of the book in my hand, seeing the cover tangibly manifested before me, and actually seeing the sales and seeing the reviews and seeing how much people enjoy it. Do you know? After publishing 16 books, every single time that vision has come to pass and better.
Wow.
That is just powerful to me. And so I don't know what people's belief systems are, but what I will say is, I wish I knew. I know it was last year, but we talked about changing your belief systems and that belief systems should be flexible. I'm going to remind you guys that if this is a challenge to you, change your belief system. Belief systems are highly editable. If it's not working for you, honey, change it. I have times where I will tip every sacred cow of belief I have in my current arsenal and investigate it to see whether it has earned the right to continue to go forward with me in my new reality. And I'm asking and challenging you guys to do the same. So, is your current reality doing you right? Is it doing you the way you want it to? If not, if you feel like it's not, it may be because there is a Morpheus loop of closeness to a better reality kissing you, caressing, and even seducing you to come on over. So I want to leave you with that. And I'm going to talk about me for a minute. And what I'm talking about now, and JR, we hadn't had a chance to talk about this, but I am facing the same thing of a new reality. You know that I am self-published.
Yeah.
And now it appears that the universe is conspiring to make me a hybrid author, meaning that I'm going to possibly be moving into some deals with publishing houses and getting an agent. I recently had opportunity to meet with a few agents, and I actually have a few more meetings coming up in New York the next few weeks to meet with some more. And each one of the agents and editors from publishing houses has been very happy with what I am pitching to them. And the thought tickled me a little while ago, and it was funny because at the time I was like, oh, that's just poppycock. I mean, I'm doing good as a self-published. And then my friendships morphed in that's all my successfully published author friends who, are at that level above me. That's all they talked about. It's time. It's time, Michelle. It's time. It's time. And I'm like, why is this happening? And then I had that conversation with that friend, and I realized, oh my gosh, the same thing I'm talking to them about is happening to me. I'm being seduced, kissed, and embraced by the next reality that is best for me. And so by faith, I am making the jump. I made the jump, and I set up the meetings. I had most of the meetings, and they all went well. And I've got a few more to finish up. And then hopefully, offline, of course, I'll tell you about who I decided to go with an agent, and possibly what publishing houses I'm going to be working with.
That's exciting.
Yeah, and so I'm saying this to say, y'all, quantum theoretical physics for the win. So that's all I got for that. I hope that made sense. I hope it helped someone out there. And if it did, please send me a response. Rate this show and tell others about it, okay? So I'll turn it back over to you, JR.
Good stuff. We got to talk more about these topics. I like your excitement level here. But what do you have coming up for us next time?
Oh, okay. So next time, and this is really fun being at the beginning of a new year here. The next time I'm going to be just bringing it kind of like circumspect. I'm going to be talking about the truth about your epic story lifestyle.
All right. Looking forward to it. So that's a wrap for another Epic Story Lifestyle. Thank you, Michelle, for sharing your nerdiness with us. And thank you, everyone, for tuning in. We'll be back next time.
Yay. Hey, Michelle here again. If you like today's show, remember to go to iTunes and in the search bar, type Epic Story Lifestyle. And when you see me, hit that subscribe button. If you really like today's show, hey, come on, do me a solid by giving a rating and a review. If you've got questions, comments, or even show topics you'd like to hear me cover in the future, tell me about them when you leave that wonderful review. All right, my time is up and I thank you for yours. See you next time. Now go out, make some great decisions that give you that epic story lifestyle.
This is the podcastfactory.com.